Okay, looks like we should be back up. We should be back. I will hold on a moment for confirmation. A lot of dramatic stuff has happened in the moment that we weren't live, but it does appear that we are now back live. So hello and apologies for the disconnect.
Looks
So
like we are back.
what did we see on Davs's turn? We had an R&D run. We were able to fetch this magnet. Spend an imp to trash the audacity off the top of the deck, getting an Audrey counter. Now, for the odd matchup, I'd say imping the audacity one of the main things you're looking to do. We see a Trojan horse.
Ooh,
Now, with
that's
Trojan horse trace 4,
we are on the untold protagonist side. We do have a link on Hoshiko. The math
and
on this bit's a
enough
little bit
credits to
weird.
stop any. Oh no, we're paying to increase the trace. Okay, so it is trace 5. So B Blum going to 0 credits there to deal with the Audrey. 1 symbol chip's in the bin.
Um, oh, that's interesting actually, considering devs had the option to pay 2 credits into the trace to save the Audrey. I believe.
Would Davs have had the ability to do that? If there
Uh,
was trace
devs
5 and we
It was
had.
trace 5 and he had 2 credits.
And a
So he
link.
could have gone to link 3.
But yeah, just deciding with the 2 symbol chip in hand, I suppose that we're
Oh,
not
yeah.
too worried about it.
Fair enough.
And we're going to get this Audrey down, get a counter on it.
And I do expect with this second simultaneous we will be bringing back the imp back on the board, reloaded with 3 counters. Probably the only way to guarantee the Audrey counter reload as well. I know there is a Mav Mavaris in Archives,
see 2
so
cards.
yeah.
Impian Extract and accessing an unseen card. Now, as
I do
B
wonder,
Blum,
B Blum,
what's your
are
route
they
to recovery?
interested in getting a manual purge?
You've got to think though, if you're manually purging, that could be rough. You're already on 0 credits. You're going to be spending another turn that low.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that server 1, the server 1 card isn't a Rashida. We do have 2 more in the deck somewhere. And the jamming a new remote. That's interesting. 2 credits, people. Don't know if they're going to be able to effectively defend this remote that they've created.
So Dav's playing a Labour Rights now to get 3 symbol chip back into the deck. It is really the most important card and really highlights the power of Labour Rights. You get to use your recursion cards to target 3 recursion cards to put them back in your deck and just give you all of those options. But with both of our players incredibly low on credits here, it is interesting. And we see that Light the Fire come down.
Light the Fire. Not going to be too great into this border control remote.
No, I don't know.
I mean,
what is it? Maybe just for the twinning counter.
yeah, I think it might just be for the twinning Keiko, of course, value.
Or actually, I think that Dav smells a Spin Doctor in this server too and wants to.
Oh yeah, he might just go on this one. Huh?
Also, it prevents Tucana getting a steal trigger potentially, although I don't know if Davs is actually getting into this server 1.
So the border control would make that difficult for
the border control should stop it, yeah. But if it trades for a border control, that's not the worst trade. You can take the core damage in this matchup without fear, really.
With no action taken on the potential Spin Doctor, Davs is now having to have a think.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was a click for a twinning counter and make the Gorp think about something. And the Gorp has declined to do so, so Davs is doing the thinking here.
They are correct. There is about less than 10 minutes left in the round.
Yeah, we have about exactly 10 minutes.
See the Light the Fire.
and we are going for more R&D. It looks like Davs is just trying to close this game out, getting every access.
We will get 2 accesses on this board.
Oh, thinking.
8 for the hedge fund.
So yeah, it seems like Davs' plan is just get 2 access each turn and hope that we can close out the game before Bridgeman recovers.
It should be noted that we are 2 laborites into the Hoshiko deck now, so Devs is kind of sort of running a little bit out of gas, and I think Bridgeman is thinking, if hoping that R&D can hold on just a little bit longer while they manage to stabilize the economy.
It's the classic ob conundrum of how can I win this game before I lose an R&D for my high density, given all the cards you're pulling out of R&D that aren't agendas. You end up with quite a lot of agendas left in R&D at this stage in the game with only 19 cards left. And yeah, on Davs' side, we have those symbol chips that have gone back in, but do we have the time and the resources to deploy them to actually get into service before Bridgeman makes their next push?
And this is turn 11, right? It looks like Davs has been spending, every single credit that comes through. And I know that these mulch decks can fly low to the ground, but you've got to be thinking, it must feel a little tough. We're just going back for 2 more. No Keiko. Do you think Keiko would have been the big difference maker, or do you think it's just that being forced to rush, not being able to cook a fermenter?
Yeah, it's usually, if you don't have time to set up Kiko, it's usually because you've been forced to interact by the speed of the Gorp.
And
manages to steal the STS
off the top. And that was 3 turns in a row of seeing 2 cards at the top of R&D, so you have to think, with the Corp that poor, it's understandable that why you'd pursue that line, but it could have all gone wrong.
Yeah, odds are good. Apparently there was an imp seamless earlier in the game that caused some problems. That would have killed with double Arza. Well, that would have been something.
Almost a shame that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And this was both of these players' tournament life. So Bridgeman, unfortunately, out of the cut at this point.
Yeah, which is a shame. I'm glad we got to briefly see some Bridgeman Ob play. Always a delight to watch this player play.
Absolutely.
Ob. Truly one of the greatest Ob players in the world. I think unquestionably taking some lines in the tournament last weekend that I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see them in the next one. Well played to both players.
Indeed. And how long do we have left now? Not very much time at all.
We have a bit under 10 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
There are just a couple of tables still going. So, might be... go ahead.
Do we want to see the 3rd Op Hoshiko match in a row?
How long do we have left?
That match will have a little longer because it's Brandon.
I'm willing to do that if you guys are.
Yeah, I'm happy to go to that game.
Do you want to quickly jump in and ask?
Unless Jai's already done so, I will go and ask.
Not quite.
Okay, it's alright, I can do it. If Janet will behave. Nope.
It is true fact, half of this top cut was Wayland, which we said was unexpected. I think we weren't anticipating to see that much, but it's like incredibly fun to watch Ob. All Ob games pretty much are a riot. And Jai, we've seen 2 of our teammates. This is 2 of yours.
Absolutely. Well, this game is taken a much different turn than. It is another mulch against Op, kind of pseudo rush Op matchup. Although I must say that all Op players definitely put their own personal touch onto the deck. It's like one of the most skill expressive or individuality expressive IDs out there. And Jonal got only 2 credits, but 5 points up and with a Basalt token.
And an Audacity in Archive, so we are threatening to potentially just win the game flat out next turn with a 3-2 score. But we don't know how much Brandon knows about HQ here. Presumably there's some amount of knowledge about what cards Jonal might have access to, where the agendas might be, as we've had quite quite a long game to this point.
Let's do this. We do have the option of using this board control here, and we are going to do it.
Wow.
So maybe that's Jonal with the win in hand, just looking to secure it out, or maybe what do you think?
There are a few options, yeah.
I mean, there were 5 cards in HQ at the start of the end of Jonal's last turn, of which the king saw 3 of them with the twinning multi-access, trashing the Hollow Man out of hand. So 2 unknowns still in HQ. So every possibility that Jonal has the win in hand.
But this could also be going for a virus to disrupt the Audreys. Or it could be going for a Sandstone to force out more cards, given that the king is relatively light on cards in hand at the moment. And would need 2 to get through a Sandstone with Audrey.
There's a lot of things to consider, and clearly Jonal is considering them. Yeah, it's super fascinating. We are getting that virus, and we're installing it on R&D, so the king is going to be forced to access this.
No, this run is ending once the trigger is resolved.
The Lego trashes a simul chip from the stack.
That's tough to see.
It gets buffer drive to the bottom.
Yeah, there's been but 0 simul chips installed this game actually.
Wow.
Really interesting. Okay, yeah, unfortunate draw for the king. Maybe this logo came down a bit later than he might have liked.
Yeah. Definitely, he would have liked to see a simul chip reload, or to fetch an imp out to probably get at one of these other cards in HQ, just to deny the possibility of the fast advance win, the Audacity. Although, as you say, with the Mavirus installed,
there's a little bit of a catch-22 with this face-up Mavirus on the table. If you leave it, Jonal's going to get to pop it on his turn, potentially fetch something that's tempo forward, maybe help him out from his economic situation. But if you run after it, you'll be taking a damage, but you will get to refill your Audreys. So it feels like last click here, you will run R&D, get that access first, and then, or which order do you access these in? Mavirus first, so you can trash it.
Mavirus first, just in case you can trash the top card to get like double Audrey counters.
We access an unseen card. We are thinking about it.
And that, double Audrey counters is exactly it, because there are 2 Audreys in play, which is not something you see very often. But we just, given the lack of simul chips, I guess we've had to opt for a less than optimal breaker solution here to get into servers. Seems to be working reasonably well. Oh, hello, we have a Basalt Spire being used on the end of the runner's turn.
Face down card, actually. Not the Audacity.
No,
to add armed asset protection.
Armed asset protection.
Oh, armed asset protection.
Just needs the cash. Okay, so that suggests we don't have the win straight up here.
It's very interesting. I absolutely love the Basalt Spire. Every deck that I've played that runs the Basalt Spire, it has been like my favourite card. The decisions, the cost. I don't know if it's always been. I think Jonal's Ob is maybe the first deck I've seen that really like effectively utilises it, but Call Blimey is a fun card.
Really, really fun, yeah. But notably, it's a really difficult card to make decisions about when to use and what to use it on. And we see that the use on economy here, and it's a powerful economy card. This armed asset protection is giving netting 5 credits, so 2-cost government subsidy. But now we don't have a Basalt Spire counter anymore, so the Audacity threat is less real. There is a second Audacity in the deck, however, and 2 Slash and Burns. So potentially still threatening reasonably good odds of winning the game in the next turn or 2. But yeah, if the king can get into HQ, start hunting down those Slash and Burns, it's going to get harder for Jonal to close out without that Basalt counter.
And notably, is Jai, am I right in thinking that Jonal's Ob here does have a kill threat, or has that gone away since UK Nats, where Jonal performed admirably with this deck?
Yeah, I do believe so. There are elements of the deck that stayed the same, but the urban renewals have gone up. We still are on a double MC austerity policy. If anyone's interested in getting any Azif fast advance kills.
And I love an Azef kill. It is really the most fun. Although with Jonal on 5 points, it's a little less relevant. 5 minutes left in the round. If you're the king here, as you just, me in the king's shoes at this point, I would be starting to get desperate just to get 2 points, maybe 3, try and just eke it out. But I guess you've got to be cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it is somewhat interesting to me that Jonal on the previous turn chose to put the virus on R&D, the undefended server, rather than either of the ice servers that he had, knowing that the king would likely run back into it. And I wonder what this says about like the state of his like hand at R&D, that he wasn't interested in pulling a 2-cost card at the start of his turn, for example, with another subsequent op trigger.
And
on
also the
virus.
fact that with that open R&D, we're deciding to ice HQ.
I mean, it could have been bait, right? It could have been, as we were saying, usually at this point in the game, you'd expect the agendas to be in R&D. But if Jonal's holding 2 or 3 agendas here, then he puts them a virus on R&D and says, "Come, yeah, this is where I want you to run. You're much less likely to steal points here." So it could have been a bit of a Dukem situation.
And the king not necessarily able to get into this server. I mean, we could force the border control trigger, but with only 2 cards in hand, making great use out of these Audreys could be kind of difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if we have the Buzzsaw for the Enigma, but we need 3 cards if this border control fetches a Sandstone. So it might have to be click for draw to run back here and end up running back last click.
And
so it's not impossible, but it depends on what Jonal chooses to do with this border control.
We do throw out a Revolver, which we buff drive to the bottom of the deck. We hit the Enigma. Ooh.
Worth noting that there are 2 Mavarises in archives, the only 2 Mavarises in the deck list. So fetching a Mavaris for a mid-turn purchase off the table for Jonal. Other 3-cost options are Prism Grid, not super relevant here. Possibly Afshar or Sandstone are the other
Afshar.
options. There we go.
And the king can get through this.
Yeah, without needing to spend the click on the draw if it had been Sandstone. I'm not sure how many Sandstones are left in the deck. They might both be out. But it is going to cost us about 4 credits here.
4 credits.
There's 1 Sandstone in the bin, and there could very well be 1 on the table. But yeah, it's expensive. But we will have this imp, and we'll potentially see 2 cards.
Yeah, and that's got to... I mean, it feels like, the HQIs here suggest that Jonal does have the win in hand. Because if you have the first...
Am I right to say that Sandstone would have been enough to stop the run back?
We would be able to click to draw, I think, but we see an Audacity.
Audacity!
And just a sense, so...
Okay, but there are still 2 slash and burns in this deck that could...
There are 2 slash and burns.
There are 2 slash and burns, my friend. So
Jonal, I love this.
There's a lot of outs here. We're taking the R&D run here, though.
We're accessing a card, and it's not one that we can interact with. With only 1 credit, that might not be the biggest surprise.
Okay, let's see if Jonal has it this time.
Oh, the tension must be unbearable on both sides of this table.
Yeah. Who's been Doctors removed from the game already, so recursion options are limited. Right. We're getting a Lego trigger. Another Simul chip trashed off the top.
Back on the bottom. But that's now 2
Spin
of them
Doctor.
very near the bottom. That is the spin.
Last spin.
So this is not a win this turn.
And we have options. Almost certainly one of these 2 Audacities going back, one would expect.
Yeah. You potentially could see a case for putting the Hollow Man back in, but Jonal's probably too poor to deploy that. Then again, you might have time. Depends where you think the points are and how...
It could just be money.
King could get accesses.
I feel like the king has like a pretty reasonable read that there's at least 1 agenda in HQ, given, as we've discussed, like the Afshar install.
But with only a minute or 2 left in the round, the king is going to be pretty desperate to... Wow! And we are expending the descent to shuffle an agenda into R&D.
Presumably, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, time in the round.
Time in the round. So that's going to be... That's tough. So Jonal is not going to get another turn here.
Okay, so it is fully on the king, starting his turn with 3 cards in hand, 0 credits. How do you get the win?
Well, so we shuffled a slash and burn into R&D, but not a 3-2, which is what we would have expected to be there given that the Audacity play was made. Now, I guess with the slash and burn and the Audacity, you could score a second slash and burn from hand.
Yeah, and I think given that Cora is call time in a round, it just makes sense for Jonal to cut his losses and get rid of any or all agendas that he can.
Or
R&D is
splitting them
undefended.
up. Yeah, R&D is undefended. So in some ways, potentially he's leaving one in HQ, putting one into R&D, splitting up where the agendas are to make it a little less likely that Brandy can find them all with the minimal number of accesses he has. Installing a cookbook here on the last turn, which is interesting.
I think just to get that twinning count.
Of course.
I mean, the king has the option to make at least like 3 accesses on R&D this turn.
Accesses R&D.
Imping the first one and going back for a double.
Yep. We are accessing an agenda.
We're seeing
Oh, we're seeing 2 cards off them straight away.
Okay.
All right. Rashida, trash. So we will be able to see 3 at minimum.
What do we see?
I'm thinking about this one.
Notably, no use of the Spin Doctor here.
Yeah.
Does it mean that there's another one in archives? Possibly.
It could be, yeah.
Oh, we're imping as figured out. So we can go back for a single R&D. That's the last access they can possibly get
Hope
off
to
the
tie
top
up
of
the
the
game.
deck.
Still no shuffle.
We don't get it.
No steal.
And I imagine that the king wants to run the Spin Doctor now, right? We maybe run Spin Doctor, then
Well, you
run
can.
Well, you
Advance.
still have a chance at own HQ access with Audrey, right?
Yeah, we don't have credits for Enigma for Buzzsaw, but we have plenty of Audrey counters here. So we can take a 1 in 5, maybe 2 in 5 shot at HQ.
Yeah, I think that's the best odds for tying this one up. Because there's nowhere else you can get a valuable access, I don't think, and this is the last click of the game. So.
Oh, it is the last click, right? It's not click 3, of course. So yeah, I think it has to be HQ because you can't run the spin anymore. That's not relevant. So you have to run HQ here. And yeah, I think Jonal is probably favored to win here, right? Given that this is only a single. And, yeah.
Yeah, but it only takes 1 access.
Yeah.
And the Brandon is going to get 1 more access here.
These things are incredibly exciting for just this reason.
We're going to be accessing with no clicks, no credits, and no cards left.
Oh, no, that is not correct.
I believe that's just a misclick there.
Yeah, seems like a misclick.
Some sweaty palms.
My palms would be so sweaty if I was in this position.
Mum spaghetti.
We're just going for it. So there's 18 cards out. You've got to feel that there's at least 1 in here.
Yeah, I mean, all the signs suggest it, right?
And we get 1 access.
The center side.
Show hand.
Ooh,
There is a 1 puzzle spoiler, and we access the ice
Wow.
Great showmanship
That is
from Jonal.
stylish. That is stylish. I tell you what.
That was wonderful. That was really good.
Wow, hell of a
3
game.
Hashiko op games. What a round!
Yeah, hey, listen, I'm not complaining.
I'm not complaining. What could be more fun?
And what was the Hoshiko op tally at the end of this round? Hoshiko won the last 2. Is that right?
Yeah, Hashiko won the 2 games that we saw before, and then
And lost this one, yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, that was the winner's bracket. So the king carries on now, moving to the chase bracket. And we'll get the rest of the results in. Should we take a quick break and then come back with the results from the first 2 rounds?
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
See you soon.
Hello and welcome to round 3 of the top cut of the Circuit Breaker Invitational. This round we're seeing two very familiar faces if you've been following competitive Netrunner for quite a while. Actually, these are two of the more veteran players in the field. We have Bridgeman and the King. Lat versus Asa Group. And with this first turn, we see Asa with click for a credit, use that Asa ability to get a double install and install an HQ. Nice and civil. We see the ASOPs, the self-modifying code, and the creative commission. Now, I'm assuming the use of the ASOPs means that we're probably selling this SMC or popping it to get a coalescence and selling that.
Yeah, more than likely using for coalescence, or probably I think that Bridgeman can just about afford Muse into coalescence and then do the thing where you take the money off the coalescence before selling it at the start of the turn. But Rashida down for the King is always a good sign for us as a group. Worth noting that both players mulliganed at the start of the game.
Pretty good mulligans on both sides, right? The Usopp start and the Rashida start are about exactly what you want on both sides here.
And now, Jai, it would be fair to say that you're, as we mentioned earlier, a bit of a Asa expert. Have you been giving the King a bunch of coaching for this tournament?
A little bit. But I mean, anyone who's like known the King for more than a little bit will know he definitely plays things his own way.
Can you talk to us a little bit about this specific list? Because there are a few things, I've played some of this in the week, and there are a few decisions that I was quite curious about. One of them, we have 3 copies of Cohort Guidance Program, which felt to me a little bold with all of this Anarch in the field. But then again, 2 Malia, which are a card you don't always see. It wasn't in some of these previous versions of the Asa list, which can be pretty useful against some of those Anarchs, but also could blacken Aesops here. You know, what was your thought? Do you know what the thought process was there?
So I guess we can talk about the Malia first, which is I think a bit of an interesting tech include, and one I'm more or less sold on. Maybe not on the exact quantity, but you know, the idea is quite simple. There it is. Sorry, one more thing into the rest Malia. I'm not sure if the King would have wanted to do that before, after the SMC pop into the musical lessons. But yeah, Bridgeman calling up what we're all thinking. Pretty uncool thing to do. Kidnapping defenseless small business owner.
I mean, yeah, usually when I'm resing Malias, it's usually an Eternal and the runner immediately dies thereafter, because I've blanked whatever card was keeping them alive. So yeah, this is a bit of a novelty to me, but yeah, a powerful use of the card. And as we say, you know, the Aesops is really the card that Bridgman wants the most in his deck in the early turns, so blanking that is very powerful.
And we are still in the lily pad. We pop that SMC to get a Parisha, which we're chasing after this Spin Doctor. So Parisha pretty good against in the matchup, and the extra MU will mean that we've got space to keep it around. I'm sure this will pay out a lot of money over the course of the game.
Yeah, although fetching it before we fetch a breaker to get to that Malia is an interesting choice, potentially indicating that there's more surge effects in the grip here.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Malia itself, it is an interesting card, and I think it was like born of the necessity in like the arms race, so to speak, between Pop and Runner in terms of specifically in the Asa versus Banhar Anak matchup, whereby a lot of times, especially in like those zombie style freedom lists that were around like in the immediate post-Worlds period, where you would see like these freedom players going around with just Banha plus virus breakers, whether the Audrey or the Omakua, right? And the normal response to that would be just getting a Mavaris down, and if let's say they Mavaris, if they face check the drafter, if you have a Mavaris and without the Banha, you can just do what I like to call the Banha, the math shuffle, right? Where the drafter just reinstalls the math after you purge and They have to just keep chasing it around until they find a solution. Now, Banha, of course, puts a stop to that because you just take the 2 net damage off of the drafter and go and trash whatever's behind and keep your trash engine going. So the Mala is the next step in that, right? If you have a Mala somewhere else, you blank the Banha and get your loop restarted.
And Bridgeman here we see install Coalescence, drawing a card of Lilypad and netting 2 credits. Drawing a card, trashing this Nico campaign that was installed in the back remote, and installing a Stone Ship, which there's no threat of kill from this Acid deck, so that's going to be just a tempo draw at some point.
Yeah, it can also be credits using Coalescence.
That is true.
Needed to, yeah.
We see a Cohort Guidance Program res, so that's the King's money starting to come in.
Yeah, notably Bridgeman getting lat draw for the first time in the game there on turn 3, yeah. Wasn't able to get low enough on turn 1, and then Brandon had the Spin Doctor to deny him on turn 2.
Now, it strikes me that this is the exact kind of board state where you would, as Bridgeman hit, you'd love for a trick shot to come out, except for the fact that we don't have them. There's no trick shot in the format, and so this uniced R&D feels a lot safer. It's nice for the Asa.
Yeah, and it's a really difficult spot for Shaper, because the way Shaper tends to work is it's very good at finding particular tools for particular jobs for particular kinds of ice, but it doesn't have very many tools that can be applied to multiple situations. So where an Anarch might have a banker or a crew here and be able to threaten multiple of these servers, the Shaper is going to struggle to threaten all of these different ice remotes off of just one self-modifying card, for example, which can only fetch one kind of icebreaker.
We see the symbol chip come down. We are flickering a Coalescence, and we did see the Stone Ship used for draw. And we are.
It is interesting though, because Bridgeman did have access to SMC off of that simul chip trash, and he could have, using this Parisia, gone after one of these Malia or cohort remotes. I do think it is an interesting thought experiment to imagine what kind, or shall we say, if you are the Shaper player in this position, which remote would you preferentially go after, the Mali or the cohort?
That is an interesting question, but we're going to go after none of it. We're installing DJ Sable, which leads me to believe that this is a deep dive deck from Bridgeman.
No, this is another Conduit Shaper. This is
another Conduit Shaper.
There's no deep dive in this deck, which makes the Saber. When he installed DJ, I was like, wow, what could we go for? We could go for Lou here, we could go for Steve, we could go even for Quetzal. No, I've been duped, it's Sable.
Wow.
Which maybe suggests there's the Conduit in hand. And if Bridgeman just is threatening here to just roll R&D mark, install Conduit, see
a billion cards.
So many cards in R&D, that's the threat here. And so, yeah, I guess no trick shot, but we still have ways of pressuring R&D, especially in this open deck lists game where the king has to know about that Conduit and decide whether he wants to respect the 1 in 3 on the Sable here.
And even with the ESOPs out, with that gamble and creative commission last turn, Bridgeman feeling pretty good on money.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe the better way to deal with the Malia is just draw a second copy of ESOPs.
Absolutely.
And install. Then the Malia is just sitting there blank, doing nothing except fuel for the operational.
Interesting. There's a Spin Doctor in the remotes over there that the king didn't use to deny lateral, but is still resing. So maybe whatever we top decked there, causing us to sit and think.
Discarding. The court's been going for a couple turns now, 2 face downs into archives. Possibly, now that we know it's a Spin Doctor in this server 5, possibly indicating that those are agendas and the king's just trying to deal with some flood at the moment. This click one draw also slightly suspicious in that regard. We get the double install, but we'll still have to discard a single card at the end of the turn.
Could discard 2 if we want to here. Just click for a credit, discard 2 agendas to shuffle back.
Although you'd imagine the cohort was doing some of that work.
We're protecting server 5, so it looks like we're setting up some ice to potentially score behind in the future. Once the Spin Doctor's out of the way, I'm going to discard 1 here.
Which makes it look like server 6 is another kind of value asset, or potentially one of those tech pieces.
But this is how you get people with ASA, right? Jai, you know this very well, I'm sure. In fact, I saw you do this
Oh,
when
yeah.
I was judging the cut at Worlds. You sometimes you make a play just like this, which says, "Oh yeah, I'm building server 5. I'm going to score an agenda. I'm installing an agenda next turn to try and score potentially." But server 6 is in fact already the agenda you're already pushing, and it's very hard for the runner to make that read.
Yeah, and this kind of bait and switch is quite interesting to try and set up on a lot of boards, because like Cohort Guidance Program, especially in this deck, right, plays double duty. It does like dump the cards you don't need right now, draw you to your fully operationals and your other good cards. It looks like we will see a Spin Doctor pop in all likelihood on this run. But anyway, yeah, the other thing it does is, of course, on these kind of like relatively seemingly innocuous boards, you can just force through a Vitruvius with a counter or an offload office or something of the sort.
So the Archives run is forcing an agenda back. Does this give credence to the Conduit play?
Potentially, seeing one of the Tomb of Iris in Archives rather than in R&D is also pretty nice for the Conduit deck, but we see the Cleaver come down instead and the R&D run here, so maybe the Conduit isn't quite ready to go just yet. Although we do have the R&D
Last
mark.
week run R&D.
We get our click back.
Click back, yeah.
Still able to steal Ikawa projects. Normally a good way to suss out what the Ikawas is to run last click. They'll just float to the top.
That's right, yeah.
And I suppose we're slightly too scared of Drafter to be able to challenge any of these remote servers at this point. I would be.
Yeah, yeah, that's always the threat, right? It gives ASA so much tempo, lets them pick up a card, install a card, and install another card from HQ using the ASA ability. That's a lot of value in 1 3-credit ice.
We see a Hush going to heap. Does that do anything in the matchup? Is there anything we're keen to hush? I don't think we want to be hushing Hargans or Brands.
No, generally not. You can hush a Ablative Barrier if you do it preemptively. That can be a pretty hard read to make potentially. Or you can hush Gatekeepers to make them smaller strength on the turn they're rares. But fairly niche application, so having it in the bin for symbol chipping that's really needed is probably the place for it, I would say.
And a question, Jai, you might be able to answer this. The Agenda Suite, obviously, previous versions of this list were playing the Luminal Transubstantiation, which has since been banned. And so the question comes, what do you play in those slots instead? And the answer for this one is, we play an additional Ikawa project. We're now on 3 Ikawa project, 3 Vitruvius and 3 Offworld, I believe, as our agenda suite. Meaning we're on 21 points, a slightly higher agenda density than normal, which was very interesting to me. I would been playing around with Asa, experimenting with Elevagals and some other stuff, but I didn't consider 3rd Ikawa. Or just 3rd Ikawa.
I think in the 2 Asa decks that we see in the cut between the King and Styx, we see 2 different solutions to the Luminal problem. Styx, I believe, went with already was on 3 offworlds before the ban, and I believe went to, in addition to that, a single copy of Architect Deployment Test. I personally experimented, as you say, with swapping out for 2 copies of Elevagal Bifurcation. There we go, the 3rd Spin Doctor.
I'd say, and also 3 incredibly important cards to see there. One, The Price, a card that I don't think anybody had anticipated was going to be seeing splashed into Shaper, but seems like a good way for a deck that I think Bridgeman said before was sometimes struggled in the faster matchups to find all of the pieces it needs. Very, very nice. And we see the second Aesop's come down, so that Malia no longer doing work, but also we see that Hannah come down, and that is going to be big, especially once we're able to challenge this ice. Just those extra clicks are going to be absolutely massive for checking potentially multiple threats in one turn, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, agreed. Bridgeman is the kind of player who has said often on his stream and in other places where he talks about the game that having loads of money as the runner is just a good solution to any problem. And the reason that stealing the Ikawa here, well, that's another way to do it, just rip the points. But yeah, the reason Bridgeman is able to kind of enact that philosophy in this case, prioritising, as we saw, the Usops there off of the price to get his econ rolling, and taking some other choices like chipping back the Coalescence earlier in the game, is because he's very good at playing runner. Part of the game that is use your resources correctly and make the right choices is the part he's already very good at. So what he needs his deck to do is give him lots of money and give him the tools he needs at the right time. Things like the price are one way to get there. It's his most recent choice to do that with. And yeah, the Hannah is a useful include as one of those tools that's going to help him get over the hump here of catching up in this game. Helped as well by that 3-point rip off R&D.
But with 16 credits, 5 remote servers, and we haven't seen a fully op yet. This cohort's been ticking, and there's a lot of threats on the table. I would be surprised if the king doesn't manage to score some points this turn, but has a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah, I mean, judging by the spin doctor line earlier a couple of turns ago, we can read that there was some agendas in hand.
Ice R&D.
Yeah, but then we're playing the defensive game as well, which I do like here. I think while Bridgeman is going to make a lot of money as the game goes on, right now he's not hugely liquid and he doesn't have a lot of ways to deal with ice.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's the Sentry Breaker in Bridgeman's list?
The Boy Tata.
Oh my!
Yes,
Boy
I
Tata.
was going to get to that actually. Like, we were talking a little bit earlier about like Bridgeman, like possibly using the SMC to face check particular remotes. And then I went to check looked at the Boy Tata and looked at his numbers into draft. I was like, yeah, I kind of see why he went for the co-legends now,
What does Boy Tata break a drafter for if you've got the trash?
If you've got
it's like
trash,
3 credits, right?
Okay.
It's not the worst. Or is it 4? It might be 4.
It's 3 credits if you have the trash. Of course, not. This isn't counting the SMC tutor and install, which is another 5. So I imagine like Bridgeman wasn't that interested in paying 8 credits for a drafter face check.
Notably, Boy Tata is maybe the only Sentry Breaker in the game. Certainly the only I've seen recently that can break a drafter for just 1 credit once you have the turbine online. Even Echelon still costs you 1 per subroutine, whereas Boy Tata has that magical text, break up to 2 Sentry subroutines on it, which is a rare line of text indeed.
We roll the archives mark, which gives us, and there it is, gives us the free check of archives, which is relevant with this cohort on the table.
Quite useful.
And yeah, now it's just going to be a question of keeping that Boy Tata online. There's still a lot of ice that can keep Bridgeman out here. Gatekeeper, fantastic bit of HP ice. What we can do when that rotates? There's all sorts of great stuff in this ice suite that will still do a lot of damage. And we're at threat 3, so ablative barriers will also be firing additional triggers.
So we are okay.
We are raising the wage workers and the powers that be.
Here we go.
An off-world office. Not unhappy to see that. That's just going to refund the whole play. And what do you think we get back here? It'll be a Nico campaign or something from hand.
Nico from Archives. No, we're getting something from HQ. Okay, this is I think the play that I expected more. Given that I don't think that the king has or wants to spend the 2 turns that it would take the Nico to fully pay out.
Yeah, and we're good for money. It's something that I underrated about the powers that be, and only really appreciated when playing this deck, is just how often you can use it to just save a click on installing an agenda, be ready for the push next turn. It doesn't have to be a recursion piece, it can just be a tempo piece.
That's right, yeah. And Brandon really threatening here to just wheel out 7 points over the next few turns. He's got the money to res ice, he's got cohort and wage workers ticking to help him pay for the advancements, and he's got powers that be to install. So he's got a very click efficient engine set up here that could win the game within 2-3 turns.
Yeah.
So Bridgeman really has to make decisions about how he's going to respect that and how he's going to respond.
Sable rolling the HQ mark here, and there are a lot of cards that Bridgeman could pull out of the deck to help get there. We've got Muse. I don't know how many copies of Muse and or Simulchip are we on in the deck. Not Muse and or SMC are we on in the deck?
3 and 1. 3 Muse, 1 self-modifying.
Okay, so the early self-modifying code we saw was the only one, so it will be a Muse if it's anything, but we are absolutely not worried about MU.
Well, it can happen. I mean, ideally, from this board, we still want to find our decoder, which is Buzzsaw, our turbine, and probably our conduit. Which would be 3 more MU, and then you don't have room for a ton of muses in that setup.
Click 1, install
it is interesting,
a
right?
turbine, reducing the cost by 1 drawing card.
Yeah, I do think Bridgeman wants to find a decoder access before making any
strong challenges to any of these remotes, but particularly server 5, given that I think the king is on multiple copies of MIC, and that is not something you want to
Face check.
not something you want to face check. Yeah, especially at this stage of the game.
But we are on. There are 14 cards left in the stack. We've seen no Muse, and we've seen no Overclock. So there is a real chance that Bridgeman could just have some of the pieces he needs right here with 15 credits.
It seems like he's gone for the first click to draw functionally. using
Install
the
it all
turn.
from hand.
There it is.
What does
Oh,
Muse
right.
does it have text?
Well, yeah, we're running HQ here, and
It's the mark.
it is the mark. That's a good spot. And often when the corp is trying to windmill agendas into the remote, go from 0 to 7 quickly with a setup like this, the place to catch them is HQ, right? Maybe this server 5 is a score that Bridgeman might not feel he's able to contest, but if he can steal the next agenda out of HQ, that's going to buy him a turn or two at least.
Likely, and we've got Hannah to use. We've got there's still a world where we take a lot of additional clicks here, and the king's 15 credits could disappear pretty quickly.
Yeah, the king is respecting that remote threat with Hannah by not resting on HQ here. We just see a Hargan.
Would you Hannah run this remote? Server 5?
Oh, I think I would, right? I mean, given you've got basically your full rig out already, not really afraid of any face checks at the moment. Even Bran is still just a 4 credit break. You've got 11 to play with. Not a big deal.
Are we at that fabled 1 credit break for drafter?
Oh, yes,
Did we trash something this time?
We did. That was a coalescence, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, we are. And yeah, we've got. Well, if we Hannah run, we'll have 2 clicks, so we can respect both Nick and Ikawa.
Are there any? There's no border control, nothing that we expect to suddenly end the run. We are going to draw, then Hannah running.
We gamble.
Yeah.
That.
Oh, gamble. Sorry, get the money. Makes perfect sense.
So the only thing that probably could trip Bridgman up here is if maybe there's some Tattoo Bowler into Metagame Skunkworks play that the king could pull on this remote. But even then, I think Bridgman probably has the credits to pay through this.
Yeah. The question is, how many times can he contest this remote in a row? Because no doubt the king is going to keep trying to drag him through it if he can indeed get through.
I think it's worth noting that we're like basically halfway through the deck already on the corp side, and we haven't seen a single fully operational. And the king has been setting up for this for like the past 3-4 turns, I want to say. With the wage, the powers, the cohort remotes, even the Malia, chipping in at this point.
And yeah, if we did have it in hand right now, we could afford to res everything with the confidence that you have a click for 9 button in hand.
Absolutely. No res on this. Okay, Bran. Okay, this is not unexpected on this remote, but just a 4 credit break on Cleaver.
The first ice res of the game. And another 4 credit break. So we managed to make Bridgeman spend a lot of money on this one.
It's just a Rashida.
Interesting.
So it seems like the king's really prioritized keeping his agenda flow under control, not drawing too many agendas, and going for those to set up that board, as we say, to prepare for the fully operational where he can burst up in credits and cards and then maybe move to scoring from there.
Bridgeman able to draw and get that lat draw, so click to draw 2 doesn't feel bad.
It's any ID that gives you 3 clicks worth of value is usually good text, and Bridgeman has 2 in play currently.
So if you're looking to get Aesop's value next turn, which card are you thinking about selling?
This is a great question.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, this is something I've struggled with this deck myself, of when is it appropriate to, for example, sell this Parisia. Is this Parisia, you trash 2 more assets, then it's giving you more than 3 credits that you'd get for Aesop's, but Aesop's gets you those credits right now.
And
Free
do you see
you.
that fully up?
We found the fully up, okay.
Yeah, speaking of getting those credits right now, here we go.
5 modes of fully up, so we're going to draw 2 and have a think. Right now, this remote server looks like 5 credits to break for Bridgeman, depending on what's on the outside, which is effectively 1 overclock. And there, I assume there are 3 overclock in the list. Only 2.
Oh no, I'm confusing my decks. It's 0 copies of Overclock.
0 copies of Overclock.
Yeah, the previous
Oh, my lord.
iteration, Bridgeman's previous iteration of this deck was on multiple Overclocks, but they've left, I guess because we've gone to the price and Muse over Overclock and SMC as your choice of how to get your breakers into play.
It's true. If you're not playing as many SMCs, it can be hard to make use of those Overclock credits.
That does also mean that
Sure.
the amount of credits that Bridgman is going to have on any given turn is pretty much face up here for the
Yeah.
king to play around.
We've got all 3 short gambles in the bin. We've got 2 crazy commissions. So yeah,
All 3, in fact, and all 3 coalescence.
Oh
So,
wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bridgman's money looking kind of finite.
Yeah, and when you choose to
Yeah.
have a game where you're DJ for somebody other than Steve, as these kind of shape of decks, that's how your money will run out at some point. So you've got to start thinking about maybe pivoting to that conduit sooner than we otherwise would to get this game over with.
We do sell the Parisha, which may indicate that pivot that we were talking about. Now, do we think there is an agenda in server 5?
I think if you
we
were
drew 5 cards last turn as the king.
as the king there, you really wanted to draw an agenda and a skunkworks to go with it, and then you'd feel pretty good about this server. As it is, I'm not sure. What's your read, Jay?
Given the number of Rashidas in the bin, still one got shuffled back quite early on, and it's so tricky. I do think that this is an agenda. I think this is a Project Vitruvius, and I think like the king is probably gambling that. I mean, ironically enough, I think the king is gambling that Bridgman isn't going to check this remote, given that he didn't commit anything to it other than the single install. I think if there was maybe like a 4th ice or an upgrade going down at the same time, that Bridgman would be more inclined to check it because it's more likely to be agenda because of the effort involved, of course. But I think if the king can like push through Vitruvius this turn, possibly with a counter. Oh my gosh!
I was looking at that. So Bridgman's played the price and saw 4 installables off the top: turbine, simul chip, inv testing, and propeller. Now simul chip, incredibly important. Propeller could have given you a one-time break of brand for very little money, but I didn't think about the second propeller and how cheap this remote server now looks. There is no ice in the deck that Bridgman doesn't break for 2 credits, if I'm not mistaken. So that finite amount of money is going to go a lot further with the second turbine.
Yeah, 1 credit.
So this is a
turbine,
3 credit remote now, notwithstanding this res, which is not happening. All right.
Yeah, I mean, even a fresh gatekeeper is 1 credit now. So
Yeah, the game for Brandon has now changed quite a lot, right? Is that he can no longer rely on taxing out the economy of Lat, probably, although, well,
as a cohort,
you know.
It's a cohort.
Yeah.
You start to think that this conduit would probably start to see some agendas if it comes down. If we have the MU for it. I suppose we do.
Yeah, 2 credits per ice will add up eventually,
Yeah.
but more likely Brandon's way towards winning this game is by making Bridgman make suboptimal use of his clicks and just use the efficiency delivered by the assets he still has on the table to do more than Bridgman can reasonably deal with.
Bridgman deciding to trash that cohort, which I think is like potentially unnecessary with the amount of crits. Like Brandon's going to want that server soon.
Potentially, yeah. It denies fully operational value.
It's true.
It is interesting to think of like how the king wins from here. Like if we accept that Bridgman is going to be able to check the remote every turn for the rest of the game, whenever the king jams through it. There is, I believe, a single copy of Biotic Labor in the Arsa deck.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure like how he intends to get there, considering maybe with like wage workers and powers, we can try and loop this Biotic Labor enough times, try and fast advance Vitruvius into Offworld, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, notably
Because
with
all,
the wage workers in play, you can do that and get Vitruvius counters, which are more
yeah,
copies of Biotic.
exactly. And and what I'm noting is because all three spin doctors are out of the game.
Wow.
So any moment you try and fast advance the Vitruvius without a counter, that's it. That's the last biotic.
That is true. Relatively few face down cards in archives. This cohort's been able to run and run all game, which is why the king is as flush as he is, and I suppose having only res 9 credits worth of ice.
Yeah, but this is kind of how you draw up the matchup as the turbine deck, right? Shape a turbine.
Yeah.
You're actually, unlike like a lot of the Anarch decks, the way they beat HB tempo is by interacting early, making them commit their resources, trashing their stuff. But the Shaper Turbine, if you can hold your nerve for long enough to sit off and set up, then once you're running, the ice is almost non-existent to your big rig here, and you just need to make the right calls and find where the agendas are.
I mean, it's entirely possible that the correct way to interact versus this double turbine ASUP stack, right, would have been to try and push more aggressively, perhaps, instead of playing as KG as the king did with the early agendas and spinning them back as aggressively as he did, as we saw earlier. It's entirely possible that the hand that he was dealt with. We saw that there was 0 fully operationals in the top half of the deck, and that probably factored quite a big deal into the decisions that he's made up to this point.
Well, here we go.
But okay, here comes the first fully up, and Vitruvius. All right.
Biotic into Vitruvius, the play that you two exactly described. So
yeah, is it enough to get us there? As Jai said, this kind of leads you towards a plan where you're trying to score 4 agendas rather than 3, which means it's going to take you quite a bit of time, and that gives Bridgeman the time to find those agendas for himself.
We do put something into that remote server, and the onus is now on Bridgeman to check it.
Okay, we do know it is a known cohort guidance program.
Oh, it is a cohort. Interesting. Yep. We're just looking to race through the deck, draw into the agendas.
Yeah.
Install the Muse.
This will fetch conduit, I'd assume.
It is somewhat notable that the king can just win in 2 turns from this position just by going Vitruvius counter into Biotic, Vitruvius counter into Offworld. So
Bridgeman does have a little bit of a block. Wage workers out because of that. Does that sever the recursion game plan?
Yeah, in theory. There are more wage workers elsewhere.
There's one face up in archives, I believe.
Okay, in that case, maybe not.
Yeah.
No, just 2 wage workers in the deck. So yeah, if you can trash this wage workers, then that plan does start to look a bit more dicey. So you draft an HQ and make the R&D run. So just trying to find those agendas here.
Yeah.
Not trying to go for the conduit win con, interestingly.
No, I think Bridgeman's anticipating or getting the sense that the king is light on agendas. He has theoretically a 2-turn win, but if he doesn't draw into them, it's not going to happen. And he wants that late game engine. We were talking about how quickly these credits could dry up for him, and if he's not getting that Aesop's trigger, then the Boy Tatters are looking a lot less appealing. So I can totally understand taking the more long-term line.
Yeah,
and stealing the second Icar off the top.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a big one. And yeah, now that we have that, we have Music Coalescence was the choice earlier in the turn, which is a play that is you're only gaining 1 credit when you make it, but you're gaining 6 more over the next 2 turns. So it's a 7 credit click that's potentially, now that we're at 6 points, going to carry us through as much of the rest of the game as we need to play.
But yeah,
going after the cohort here as opposed to wage workers.
An ablative barrier res does throw off a lot of this decision making potentially very quickly.
That's a great point.
It's not an ablative, it's just a gatekeeper.
3 to res the gatekeeper costs 1 to break.
Yeah, but now you have a server, you can just stick more things in and try and waste some of those hand clicks and it actually costs something at least for Bridgeman to run.
Yeah, and the king's still holding on to the ability to over advance a visual risk from hand. I believe it's credit perfect after the second cohort rest.
Interesting.
Bit of a think here from Bridgeman, potentially deciding whether to challenge one of these remotes. Just taking a card here. Interesting.
What are you drawing for if you're Bridgeman here? Is it the fact that we just don't have the conduit?
Could be conduit, could be more things to sell to ESOPs.
Okay, there goes the cohort rest.
Yep.
So this world break RD lock. Okay, not that the top card of RD was known. It was a card that was stolen.
Yep. So 2 new cards for the king here. Good odds, I'd say, of being able to pull out an agenda. But the question is, can you afford to fire it?
Yeah, you can score an off-world here as well using the same technique, but that, as we've said, leaves your Biotic stranded in archives. So pretty tough to find the 4th score from that position.
When I played a fair amount of the King's deck in the past week as part of testing, and I found the games where I was trying to score 4 agendas so much harder, and they were the games where my opponent stole the Iqua from Centrals, and having 3 of the Iqua means that it happens a lot less often. You are able to find and land that Iqua a lot of the time, but it can be tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are picking
this
up
kind
the
of
Biotic.
ties. Oh, here we go. This would take him down to 0 credits if it's the second Vitruvius.
And it is.
And it is the second Vitruvius.
Wow.
Right. So that is a path to victory here for the king, but being on 0 credits, resing this Rashida, sure, why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to be on 7 credits in order to threaten the win here as the king, is that right? Or
That's
8?
right.
Yeah, absolutely. So even this Rashida plus cohort is not enough to it's not threatening the win already yet, so to speak. Bridgeman installing a DCM0 Muse. Okay, I guess we are getting the conduit now, huh?
It does feel like it's the time.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for Coalescence here, though.
He does.
The man just loves credits.
And does that mean that you're contesting these remotes? We are checking archives. It is the mark.
It's free.
What do we see?
Just 2 Hagans and a seamless launch.
Okay.
Not unexpected. We do know there's still a drafter in HQ, not that it matters that much.
Yeah. And we are running R&D. Wow.
Yeah, you run R&D with the click for Iqua, and then you go after the Rashida next, presumably.
The pause.
No action.
In this board state, there's almost nothing that you'd consider trashing, right? You don't want to let the king draw
Yeah,
through to
I
the
think
agendas.
like
Yeah.
a second Malia, you let them have it. Third cohort, you let them have it, most likely.
And fully operational here is going to be big.
And
Oh my
what
lord!
did we say? Running last click, the best way to get them to show up.
That's right.
That is the last tower project.
So we have 3 cards in HQ right now. We're going to have to discard one of them, or we may discard one of them to get into credits. You've got to feel like that's something the king's not got much of an option about.
Yeah, and I think you have to find a fully operational tier this turn, right? Just to threaten the win.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to draw another agenda, that means it's like going to be at least a 40% chance for Bridgeman to just rip one off HQ, and he's got multiple clicks to do it with.
Okay, we have the 5-minute call.
And as a reminder for the audience, this is, both of these players are, if they lose this game, they are out of the tournament.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. This turn is going to be very, very important. Now, is there ever a world where you cohort trash the Icaru into archives?
It's tough. I
Oh,
mean,
it's so risky. I think
You've got that Vitruvius counter.
all it takes is the archives mark to be rolled, and you've like cost the runner literally nothing to call your bluff there.
Yeah.
I think not. I think you're better to draw up like this. Hopefully you draw fully up. That would be ideal. But even if you don't, you're keeping that Icaru protected. And you do need to click for credits here. Actually,
you need to click for at least.
Install.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, you're going
Are
to
we
struggle
taking
to.
the fully operational here? I wonder.
Yeah,
We're
clicking
just
for
taking the
a
credit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a time waster. Probably
The
of 7
HQ
through.
mark probably feels alright if you're Bridgeman here. I'm sure you don't mind that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably ideal.
You're going to be checking here at least 2 times here, I want to say, if not
And
3.
yeah, it's almost certain that the king cannot afford to res. And if you see anything you can trash, you're going to trash it.
You'd imagine so. Looks like we have a think here.
He's
No?
using the Vitruvius to
biotic
antibiotic, and he
attack.
does
There's
still
the mind.
access the Echo Project. What a great game.
Wow, 3 agendas each, 9 points to 6.
Turn
Not
12.
very often you see this kind of winner score area.
Yeah, and I think, as I was saying before, for the ASA group, when you see 3 Echo Project in your opponent's score area, that that's not uncommon for the games you lose. You do need to score one of those.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely wonderful. And I assume, given that we had the 5-minute warning on this table, that is probably one of our last games for the round.
Yep.
And
Like
it is the last game for the 3 of us, who will be stepping down off of commentary after this one.
yeah, we also have a break for the players now for about half an hour, I believe.
Lovely. Jai, is there anything you wanted to, highlight, talk about before we go? I wonder if we have an updated graphic for the bracket that we could just take a quick look at before we go.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure casting with the 2 of you. Hope you all enjoying your breakfast.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, if I just hop us over to the Cobra, I wonder if we can get... Oh, the Cobra was down last I looked. I wonder if that's been resolved. Don't know that it has been. So we might not be able to go and quickly check the standings.
Yeah, we can. Oh, okay. I think we have the bracket in fact.
Let me just get that up on screen. One moment, please.
Yeah, it looks like we have our top 8 actually. And I'm not sure. Remind me again, but there was a prize for the top 8 of CBI, correct?
I believe that's
the
they were required to get a mat. Yeah.
Yes, the playmats. Yeah. So
Yes.
congratulations to Amaru, Kikai, Daojin, Jonal, Yantuno, Bridgeman, Devs, and Sebastian K for making it to the top 8, and of course commiserations to I believe Pouch of Lavender, the King, Not Again, and Aruzan, our reigning world champion, of course. But I mean, of course, big ups to everybody for making it this far. 9th through 12th at the CBI is still something to be proud of.
Yeah, and so if we look at it in our next round, we have on the winner's side, Amram, first placing player from the APAC pod, still in it, going to be playing a game against Kikai to decide who will have a place in winner's side of finals. And then in the chase bracket, we're going to see the reigning Circuit Breaker play against the opponent we just saw in the last round, Bridgeman.
That's a big game.
That is a big game. And on the other table, Daz131 playing against Sebastian K. Another kind of... that'll be interesting to see. And then we have 2 players who are in the chase bracket but waiting to find out who their opponents will be, Diogen and Jonal. So still very much all to play for our 8 remaining players. And a lot of good netrunner left yet to come. And yeah, I believe we now have time for a break. Is that right?
Yep, so the players are on break for the next 30 minutes. So we'll go away for maybe 20 minutes or so, we can pop back and do some chat before the next round.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching this far. It's been a pleasure. Code Bowls and I will still be here behind the scenes making sure that everything works. But thank you very much, and we'll catch you later.
Later.
for volunteering your time to the Symbian Consumer Marketing Focus Group. Your opinions are valuable to us and we want to know what they are. Tell us everything. 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 Tell us everything. Everything. Everything.
Trust the Whaling Consortium. Built to last. The Whaling Consortium. Builder of nations.
Hey, 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 we're on, I think.
We're live. Probably. Maybe. Who
Oh,
knows?
surely. Let me check the
Um,
Twitch chat. Are people saying yes? No one's saying yes, but it's
I
fine. We're
unmuted us
talking.
for a second and I could hear us. And so probably other people can too.
Superb.
Oh, we should probably introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm
True.
Riel.
And I'm Alex, or have her fun on Jonal.
Woo!
Keen. I hope you're all keen. We've already had 3 rounds of this CBI. We're showing the chart right now. After round 1, I'm going to be honest, pretty... also after round 2, it looked a little bit dire for Corpse with just a sea of red. Runners taking a whole lot of these games, which was pretty rough. But, you know, it's kind of turned around. It's turned more even after round 3, so hopefully Corpse can claw back a few more wins here and there.
Yeah, that's really interesting because in testing, which I totally didn't do for this tournament because I totally didn't want to compete in this tournament and missed the deck submission deadline or anything. No, I just decided that I should let someone else win a tournament or two.
Gracious.
Yeah, very very beneficent. But I in my testing, I was really happy with my corp, and I just had no idea what to do for runner. And I also only just woke up, so I'm not super familiar with what we've seen in the tournament so far. What's the meta looking like? A lot of Hoshes, looks like we got an
A lot of
Essa.
Hoshes. A bit of a surprise when we found out who was in this CBI top cut was the amount of Waylands. Like, if you would have asked me what was the least represented Corp faction, I would have been like Wayland for sure. They're always the bottom. It's a snooze. It's horrible. But no, they're all over it. Obs are everywhere. Bridgeman has an absolutely wicked BTL list with like Oberth protocols. And also now for the top 8 remaining players that we have left, 5 of those are playing Wayland. 4 obs, 1 of those BTLs is the Bridgeman. We've got a PE left with Diogen still in the running, and 2 Asmaris. So yeah, Wayland's absolutely taken it by storm. Obs is kind of like they're just on some sort of like scoring thing with MDOM archers, but I think there's also some decks that are using slightly different slots, which are more surprising, but most are around this general kind of 3-2s, MDOMs, and then SDS and whatever. They also all have a healthy serving of Mavs, because some of those Hashikos that we've seen so far have been the kind of mulchy Hashiko versions. Like, I know the King was on it, but the King got eliminated last round. But Davs is also running that version of Hashiko for sure. So like virus-based ones. So you absolutely gotta have those Mavs as obs. And I guess that's why they've been doing well.
Yeah, I mean, Mav is such an easy insert into op because it's just a way to tutor a 2-drop. And so you'd probably put 2 to 3 Mavs in your op deck, even if you expected no viruses.
Sure.
Let's see. So the game we're planning on streaming first here is going to be our Circuit Breaker versus Bridgeman. What sides are they on? Oh, it's color coded, so presumably Bridgeman's corping. So it looks like we're gonna get to see Essa, which always love seeing Essa.
Yeah,
Doing the good old Lamb Begamot deal.
It's a scary one for sure. Single mad dash as well.
Single spark of inspiration.
Can lead to some
yes.
absolute ripper plays. We will see what comes about there.
Mad Dash seems excellent into this meta, expecting a lot. Oh, you might have just heard my co-commentator there, Cleopatra. If you ever hear a small cat screaming very loudly, that is the source. But yeah, yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why ESSA is really well placed in this current meta. I think we expected to see a lot of punitive Counter-Strike style decks, just like a lot of 5/3s. And just flipping through the lists here, that appears to have held true. A lot of 5/3s running around. Actually, specifically against Diagen here, on 3 punitives and nothing but 5/3s. And so with that construction, ESSA is so easy to mad dash with because you just mad dash archives. There's going to be agendas in archives. You're ESSA. And being able to get that extra point to prevent the ability of the corp to punitive you, to make you run through and find the third 5/3 is huge.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that we get to see something, but we will have to see. Yeah, interesting that you called out the Diogen deck, because that was actually a game that the Circuit Breaker ended up losing in round 1. We didn't get to see that on stream, but interesting. I'm really curious to see what happened there, because yeah, Diogens is really a corp deck that has the potential, based on the deck list, to pull out some absolutely wild wins, but also has like a pretty stable game plan in terms of Neurospike, but then it also has the punitive Counter-Strike. So kind of, in a way, reminding me of the Asmari decks that a lot of the people in EA Sports, that testing group, have played and have done well with, like Davs and Kikai in this tournament. So it's a really interesting build that I'm hoping we'll get to see later on.
Yeah.
Later on today in action.
Yeah, seeing here Bridgeman's list, love me the combination of Eminent Domain and Oberth Protocol. It's been one of my favorite little interactions. And geez, yeah, a lot of these cards look really silly against fully charged Begamon. Just walking through a surveyor for 3 credits feels really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. The triple standoff, I don't know what to make of. Like, obviously, pretty clearly Oberth Protocol and like Archer fodder, but I wonder if we'll ever get to see like one of those mutually assured destruction moments where the runner takes on the corporation's dare and just goes band for band, crashing all of their stuff.
No, mutually assured destruction isn't in the deck. But
you got me.
But yeah, that's a really funny thing about Standoff is its interaction with Mad Dash. That might get a little sad.
My lord.
That would be very funny.
But yeah, this is another matchup where that being able to get that extra point is going to be a big deal. Obviously, it can be a little hard to hold on to the Mad Dash in ESSA, since ESSA enjoys punching yourself in the face a bunch. But we will see.
We will see. Looks like the round is about to kick off. I've got one last fun stat for all of the stats and maps enjoyers. Of our remaining top 8 players, we have 3 that qualified through the EMEA pod, 2 through the APAC pod, 2 through the Americas pod, and then our 8th space is with the Circuit Breaker. So it's still pretty neck and neck in terms of the people who qualified through the pods. Obviously, I'm cheering on APAC to try and beat out the 2 from the Americas, but we will absolutely see.
Yeah. Gets harder and harder to root for the Americas day by day.
Yeah, mood for sure. Alrighty. Looks like the timer's about to kick off. What do we have? I'm keen. After this, We've got Diogen and Jonal waiting in the wings who aren't playing this round, but will be playing next round against the winners of the Circuit Breaker against Bridgeman and Davs against Seb K respectively. So keen for those players next round as well, after their well-deserved break. Alrighty.
Yeah.
We're just about ready to rumble.
Speaking of Bridgeman, I've been reading Wind and Truth recently. Pretty good. Oh my god. Oops.
Unbelievable. Wind and Truth, right?
Right, no, sorry.
Reconnection successful.
Oh, huh?
Looks like the stream has died.
Oh no.
Looks like the stream has died.
Oh no. F.
Oh, reconnection successful on YouTube for sure.
Oh. Not yet. He has joined the game as a spectator.
Might not be onto it yet.
We're so back.
Yeah, back
Perfect.
on YouTube.
I wonder if the
Perfect.
I
don't know if we have audio.
I'm just
though.
checking. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no. Let's see. No. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling that we're like we're back because our circuit breaker